balance forward. I believe other encumbrances will clear out of here when we finish those payrolls. I think it'll go that way, based on what I've seen so far, not the other way, and that we will see more money accumulating at the bottom line for a fund balance forward. So I think it's safe to say now at this point, we started 5 months ago or so looking at this, and we were saying might be 100,000. Then we're getting nervous. Like might be 50. Now we're back to looks like you're going to have 100 here. So as we close everything out, and this has all the big interlocal billing in here. We've put the school psychologist salary in, and the speech from Bristol in here, and the those other big heavy hitting shared things, should all be in here now. There might be some little pieces that we clean up, but those things are like a few $100s here or there. So I think we're getting pretty close to knowing where we're going to be, and we'll know. We should know for sure next month.
Good. Thank you.
After fund is going well. And then you had requested an after fund report. So after fund's doing pretty good. I think it's a very good thing that we invested in it, and that we've also invested the last year and a half in implementing it. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Compared to the other school districts that went with the Tyler product, they experienced, really significant, what they were calling train wrecks and catastrophes. And we haven't experienced that. We just experienced a lot of challenges and learning curves and whatnot. Many schools that went with the Tyler product abandoned it after a while, went back to ProFund, and are now looking at AptiFund. And some of them kept powering their way through, but I haven't heard of anybody who's really satisfied with the Tyler product. So the choice of AptiFund is a good one. What we've learned with AptiFund is that it's all things considered, and John, please chime in if you have anything to add, a different opinion or whatever. All things considered, it's pretty good software. And I think it's very user friendly in most regards, and it actually does a good job of the work it's supposed to do. We've also learned where it needs to continue to work on its development. And we've been, the groups that we have been working with in Maine to advance our use have identified more things that we need to have AptiFund do. When we moved into AptiFund, we were one of the early users in Maine. We weren't the very first. That was St. George. They began about 4 years ago. And then when we joined, there were 6 or 10 other schools that became the first wave. And interestingly, we've all kind of shared a lot of stories about all experiencing very close to the same things. When we went through last fall and realized, how many sort of hiccups there were in the payroll part of it, I formed the AptiFund user group, Maine AptiFund user group. I went and spoke with some folks at the Maine Association of School Business Officials. They had the list of everybody who we got in touch with, and then AptiFund gave us a list of the people who had signed up. And we began holding meetings every 2 weeks on Zoom for an hour and a half or so, and began to collect the people that were using it and try to identify what people were struggling with, and began a user group. And it's met every couple of weeks since sometime in January, late January. And last week, there were 54 people that had signed up for the meeting. Only about 36 actually showed up, but it was 54 users out there now who were coming to these AptiFund user group meetings. So the discussions over the course of the last 6 months about what we're experiencing revealed that we're not crazy. These are real problems in AptiFund, and when people have that kind of collective experience and can share it and see the patterns, it's a lot easier to get AptiFund's attention on what the issues are. So we've been able to create a communication channel back to AptiFund that says, we're all finding this, we're all finding that. We also in April, we began a little subcommittee of that, if you will, where I pulled together Lindsay and Great Salt Bay and her school districts, and then our school districts, and then the Lake Region school districts down around Sebago Lake. And then there was I think Cumberland joined us, and those 4 districts, and John was on these calls, and John was very instrumental in helping all of us. We began a critical path to the fiscal year rollover sort of focus group. And we mapped out all the things that we needed to do to be able to turn over the fiscal year accurately and successfully and on time, et cetera. And we had Ivy Williamson, one of the Aptifund support people, joined us on several of those calls to basically listen and chime in if she thought we were on track or off track. But we did a good job, again, with John's help, of staying on track and identifying all things that needed to happen. And we were able to, as a group of, 4 school districts, or we have our own 4, but an AOS and 4 school districts, we were able to roll over everything successfully. So everybody got paid on 3rd July, and there weren't really any more problems than any other week we've had. And that was a big victory, because last year the rollover was a bit of a spillover, and this year it went very well. So we have kind of tackled, Aptifund successfully. There was a meeting, one of these user group meetings that happened about a month and a half ago. Emily and Bobby and I sat through it. I don't know if you were on that one, John. At the end of it, we just turned it off, and Emily said, "I think we've graduated from this group." And it was like, yeah, we were hearing people now who were talking about problems we experienced last year that we'd solved. And now we were into this subgroup that was focused on one specific thing. And we were actually the ones that, our whole team, John included, Emily, Bobby, and we were the ones that were kind of helping all the others solve their Aptifund problems. And that was just interesting to kind of like feel that, because we hadn't felt that until then, We also, again, and this is something that John and I need to kind of check in on soon, is we began a list of things that we do want Aptifund to work on, the things that we've said, okay, we're not crazy, everybody's experiencing this, it doesn't work well, and we want you to fix it, and you need to fix it for everybody in Maine. So we've begun to speak to Aptifund, and I speak directly to Bob Lober, the Vice President of Support and Development, and when I call, I say, we had 54 people on the phone the other day, we're all having this problem. John's looked at it. John, the guy you offered a job to, John's looked at it, and we know it's an Aptifund problem, and you need to fix it for Maine, and it's a priority problem because it's affecting all of us. And as I have said to him when I need to, and we want to be able to tell people around here that Aptifund's a good tool, so you need to fix this so that we can tell them that, because there's a lot more school districts that we can be champions for you if you fix these things. One of the big things that it doesn't do well is encumber payroll well. It encumbers payroll, but every time you make a change, it encumbers that too. And then you adjust that, and then that person adds a couple hours and it encumbers that too. And the next thing you know, you have all these extra encumbrances and you can't get rid of them, or you lose all your encumbrances. So we're going to move this year to, 1, push on Aptifund to fix that. And 2, I'm going to start encumbering payroll the way I was taught how to do it back at Camden Rockport, which was you run your first payroll, and then you multiply that by 26 and encumber that number, because that's what you will have. And then you watch that, and then when you have a change, significant change, somebody comes or goes, you lose a position or something, you adjust those numbers. And honestly, it turns out, I thought encumbering payroll in these systems when I got here was like, oh, that's really dialed in. But you're just relying on the software and not your own knowledge, really, what's going on, situation on the ground. So what we're doing in Camden Rockport, I believe, is, at least at this point with Aptifund, a much more precise tool. So I'm going to go back to that, and you'll see me delivering that data. But all in all, Aptifund, John, please chime in and add anything you want to this, but I think Aptifund works. Let's throw one big thing in here. When you're brand new users, and don't forget, Emily and Bobby just started mid-year, and we're thrown into the fire of it, and we had a lot going on with changes in the office, etc. But when you're experiencing these problems in a new software thing, first thing you think is, what did I do wrong? What don't I know? And the last thing you think is the software is broken. So it took us a year to realize where the software was broken and what we needed to learn to be able to operate it well and to share that back with the software company. John, do you have anything to add? You've been close to the fire on this.
No, I think it's got some really great features, and it works pretty well for us. I think it's small enough company too, and that comes with baggage, but it's a small enough company too where they can adjust and make some changes for us without looking at years out. So that's also helpful. On the other hand, it would be great to have a developer dedicated to the state of Maine, because we do have some features and some nomenclature and some DOE things that are specific to the state that would but we have had some success in getting them to change some of their reporting and things like that that are to make it more specific to what the state needs and what our needs are. So that's been helpful. But no, it's for the most part it's good. The hourly folks are all, as far as I know now, correct me, Peter, using the digital time collection in there, and that seems to be going well, and saving some time in central office. So,
Well, thank you both for all the work you've done to help get it on the track for us.
I'll share a little bit more. I think Sandy might want to hear this, everybody. We have a plan now to roll out more user interaction with it. So far, it's been like the business office and John and the admin assistants in the buildings doing purchase orders and the principals approving them. But we, at the admin retreat last week, I shared that we're going to work with the admin assistants. This Thursday they're coming in, and I'm going to show them how to do a handful of like reports like this and a few other things so that they can do them for the principals, in real time, any day. Laurie could just say to Katie, can you run me a current, doesn't have to be an end of month report, a current report so I can see where we are. And there'll be a lot of communication. That'll take several months before they understand, like the things I did today to massage it, to make it really work. They'll need to know like where I am with that, but that kind of communication will flow. And then the principals, we're going to show them how to use it as well and how to begin to dial in very specific areas, like so they can see how much money they have in their grants and title funds, et cetera. And that's a training session that we've agreed to schedule for sometime in September, early October. And so rolling out an extra level of user access to things. I've also, Linda Skiff, she is now going to have access to be able to do the requisitions and run reports for secondary stuff in every school so that we can have that being done independently from, we just were doing that on the side so far, but now we're kind of organizing how we manage secondary requisitions and purchase orders and the approval paths, because they obviously don't go through the K-8 principals, et cetera. So we're building that into it. And continue to tease Sandy, as she says, but I would like to, Sandy could be our first town, person who would begin to give access to the towns to be able to run their reports. And there are some reports. What I need to do though is we got to see how it works in each of these waves of rolling it out. And I don't want to deliver anything I shouldn't. Like I got to be able to make sure that I'm turning off the access to the confidential personnel records when I start releasing it beyond, the central office and into the town halls, et cetera. So got to work with Aptifund one step at a time to say, okay, and it's perfect that it's Sandy because she knows how to use stuff and she's in this committee and has her role there. So Sandy will be our first town person. I don't think that'll be much before sort of Halloween time. I got to do these other rollouts first, but I would like Sandy to be able to go in and run her Burns reports, be able to start look at what's going on with the 941 quarterlies that we do and see all those things that the towns are so connected with us on. And then when Sandy can use it, then we can show it to the other towns that we work with. So in the next, in the first half of the school year, that continued rollout is what we would like to see happen, along with getting Aptifund to fix the encumbrances, et cetera. So we have a forward plan. And I think that it wasn't until we got around this fiscal year that we could be able to say, what's our forward plan? Because first it was, let's get it working. Let's figure out what the problems are. Let's try to solve them. Let's roll over the fiscal year. Let's roll it out to more users. And we're making all that progress.
Thank you. Any questions?
actually, one of the things that you mentioned is one of the things that they fixed. So you don't have to use the comparative financial report anymore to do cost centers.
Oh, they put that into everything else now?
They put it in the break report after I yelled at them. So
That, and again, that's exactly, we're the
so
ones who
the
advocated for
secretaries
it.
or the principals will be able to just sort of build that report and save it, and it was right on their home screen. And you
Nice.
just click the button and it prints the new report. So.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Todd?
As you're alluding to, this is kind of a quiet time in the summer months. Not quiet as far as the work needs to be done, but quiet as far as me getting out and doing stuff. I get to spend a little more time in the office. But I did on July 15th, I went up to Dura to the Early Childhood Summer Summit. The focus of that summit was the pending birth through grade 3 span to promote whole child development, to help us improve our alignment transitions for the children and families, with a focus on community-based planning and implementation. We're meeting with Jess Berry to talk about how to make that transition smoother when the time comes. Some of our schools don't have a pre-K, obviously you do, but that will be quite a curve for us down the road. I'll be participating in a webinar next week on the child find and on FAPE. So it's coming quick. So we're just doing the best we can to prepare for that transition when it comes. As Peter said last week, the admin team got together on a Thursday and a Friday. I don't know how we ever agreed to do a Friday, July 1st meeting, but we did. So we were at the Dowling Marine Center. On the first day, as Peter referenced a little bit, we had Wendy, our grant lead, join us, and we talked about our ESSA funds and our title funds. That's obviously been a pretty tough discussion. So she joined us. Peter then covered a bunch of things in the business office for our administrators, and did technology as well. And Dominic joined us and did a lot with special education. So the first day was really around those beefy topics. And then the second day was primarily the building administrators and Dominic. And we focused on what is professional development going to look like this year moving forward. And we know that one of the big areas is curriculum and assessment. Because when we lost our full-time curriculum coordinator, that area took a hit. So that's one of the areas that we looked at. We've outlined our entire PD we've identified what the PD is going to be. We've identified the first day of PD as we move forward. The administrators are going to do a professional read, Rethinking Teacher Supervision and Evaluation by Kim Marshall. So we'll be getting that. We'll be doing that at each of our meetings. We meet twice a month throughout the school year. So I thought it was a pretty productive day and a half over at Dowling. And as I said, we do have a pretty good administrative team, so I'm looking forward to this year. And the other thing would be hiring, and we've actually been doing a lot of hiring, not just down here, but across the AOS. So I'm very impressed with the candidates that have been recommended for me to bring to boards. I was able to meet with one of your candidates last week, and that was Rhonda. Very excited to join us, and I'll be meeting with Lindsay tomorrow. I like to meet with them before the board meeting, so when I bring a name to you, I can say, yes, I've met that person. I have no reason to doubt that I'm being recommended good candidates by the administrators and the hiring committees, but I will be meeting with her, but it won't be till obviously after tonight. So that's some of the things that are going on, and what I'm really digging into now is job descriptions. Pulling as many. It's funny because we have shared drives, but there's typewritten job descriptions in there. There's just and I'm not sure which is the most recent. I mean, I go back into history and can tell, but, and I've also reached out and I pulled job descriptions from Camden, from Freeport, from Brunswick, and from 40, Waldeboro. So what I'm going to do is sit down at some point with the administrators or with the business office or whoever these jobs pertain to the most. Now, some of these have jobs that we don't have a director of field maintenance and groundskeeping, stuff like that, but there are a lot that we do have. So what we'll do is we'll take what we currently have, depending on how recent it was, and then we'll pull from those other areas, compare them, and come up with the best description that fits us. And that will be the first step into developing comprehensive and efficient and effective evaluation tools so that we can provide people with the feedback they need to improve job performance. So it's tough to do that piece unless you know what the expectations of the position are. So that was something I spent the majority of the day today on, was pulling those things together. So that's where we stand right now.
All right, thank you.
Could I, Todd said something that reminded me of something I should share. It's not about AptFund, but it's about our business office users of AptFund. So we made a change in the last few weeks, getting ready for the school year. And instead of, back when I first got here, we had very specialized, people. Candy Brucey did payroll and benefits, and she was the only person in the whole central office who could do anything with payroll and benefits. Myra did accounts payable, accounts receivable, and she was the only person who was doing that. They both told me when I got there that neither one of them could take a vacation because the other one couldn't do their job. Mm-hmm. With Emily and Bobby, Emily got there in October and Bobby got there in January. I've trained them both completely across everything. And so what we're going to do is, we have begun doing the last few weeks, is Bobby is going to handle all things Bristol, soup to nuts, and South Bristol. And Emily is going to do all Jefferson, Nobleboro completely. And we got that going, and sure enough, we get tested right away. Bobby's mother passed away on Friday, and she was out the last few days of last week and all of this week, so Emily just did that time. And so this is the first time since I've been here, well, and going back 10 years before that, where we had two people that were fully cost-trained. If somebody was out, they could pick it up. So as we move forward, I know that Sandy, you were talking to Bobby about coming in and sitting down and going through everything that in your pipeline with her?
In my experience, I was able to help Myra.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, in my experience, neither Bobby or Emily is able to give me what I need. So I would love to help them.
Yep.
I would love to.
They, as I said, they've both been just cross-training for 6 months. So they completed 2 quarters. A lot of what they give you were the troubles with the quarter things, which they've only done twice.
They've only done it. Yeah, I get it.
So we're going to be setting up meetings with, we might have Rachel Bizzaro come in with you and sit down with Bobby instead of everybody like we talked about in the spring. Just where you and Rachel come in and work with Bobby and I, and then we'll have Robin and Lynn come in from Jefferson Nova, sit down with Emily, and just get that one-on-one dialed in.
Yep.
So you guys are just talking to each other regularly and passing things back and forth without any, problems.
Great.
But when one person, Bobby, is giving you some things, and Emily's giving you other, that sort of unknown gap is where things get, kind of dropped. So now it'll be closed up pretty tight.
Is it true that Optifund won't create payroll forms? Doesn't have any of those forms in it?
When you say forms, you're talking about like a 941 federal report?
Right. So the way that Candy used to do it is she would generate those forms and then give those forms to me.
Mhm.
And then what I have to do is marry the school and the town together,
Mhm.
which means taking all of those figures and tallying them and backing them out and making sure they match what we've paid. It's labor intensive,
Mhm.
especially the 941.
And ProFund was spitting it out for you?
And ProFund used to spit it out.
So that's, John and I can dig into that, probably.
And I just want that on the hit list as we're improving out the funds. That would be mine.
So they're not anywhere near the same thing.
Yeah,
And the ProFund people, that company began in Maine and was tailored to the Maine's, DOE.
exactly.
And they had about a 40-year head run before we were getting those reports, So now that's the kind of thing we can advocate for.
Great, thank you.
Lori? Yeah. So, has been busy here. Summer school has been going on. The kids are having a great time. They go on hikes daily. They went to the library for a visit last week. They're going to the beach for their last day on Thursday. And they rotate through stations that are designed to help them with either their math skills, writing, reading, handwriting, all of it, and spelling. That's been a big one. And each week, Garden Club is really busy and they're having a great time. They've also gone on field trips. They went to a goat farm and they've been to Terry's to pick raspberries. They're also going to the botanical garden, and then they made jam with it. It was really cool to see kids do that. But they're going to the botanical gardens in 2 weeks, and that will be kind of their ending. 8th graders are working hard raising money. They actually have 2 fundraisers coming up. They're going to sell boat tickets at the boat races on Sunday. And on Saturday, they have the Union Church furniture sale, which is not just furniture, I guess it's a whole bunch of things. Where they sell, where they will be selling lobster rolls and working very hard. Field is looking good. The watershed is coming along. I feel like we are working really well with the town, and all the contractors are doing a great job. And when they're not, we have a voice who helps get them back into shape. And it's been great for us. We are fully staffed after a vote tonight, I hope. And Sophie Gamage and I went to Hamden Academy Latin a week ago, to have a training on pre-K for me. And she went the second day when I actually had interviews, so I had to be back here. And that was outstanding. Just the contacts she made, the people she is able to work with to get support from is really important. And then the admin team had our retreat and planned some PD days coming up for the staff. And on the 12th and 13th, our middle school, no, it's actually all of them, our whole school except pre-KK, math teachers will go to Augusta for a main DOE Math for Me training, which we did last year for the full year. We do an intensive training for 2 days, and then they come to visit the school and observe us teaching math, and we also do Zoom meetings with them 4 or 5 times a year, which is helpful training too. And we are holding at 59 students. Waiting on one, but we'll see. Do you want me to run right into the facilities? Sure. There's been a lot going on. So a heater is going to need to be replaced in Salties. At the same time, I want to think about heat pumps because I really don't like having air conditioners in the windows, and it's a hot box in there. It's just way too hot to not have the air conditioners. So I have asked for quotes for those, and they, I have them here. They vary from 19,000 to I think 23,000. I know. It may not be the way to go, but anyway, just something that we are
And what's
looking
the
into.
cost for putting in a new modine?
You know what? We had asked for that too, and they ran with the heat pumps, and that's one thing that I don't have because I asked Shane about that today too. So he's gonna go back and find out what that will be for just the heater.
I know there's concern about safety for the window units. I mean, can we build a stand under them so they don't, like, they can't fall down?
Yeah, they're,
Seriously,
no, they're
I mean, like,
absolutely
that's
could
like,
be.
you know.
There's 2 things with safety.
Yeah.
One is the fact that they may fall on someone, the other fact is someone can kick them out and get into your building.
That's,
Yeah,
we
it's
talked about
more-
that.
yeah,
I
it's more
forgot about
dangerous
that.
than
That's- that's-
I forgot about
It
that.
is,
Okay.
yeah,
No,
that
we
is
mentioned that last
I
time we
don't-
talked about this,
I-
and I
Just
forgot.
put a couple dowels on the window. You can't push your window up. That's what I do with mine.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, actually.
Brace it on the
I
inside.
just cut 2 dowels.
Yeah.
Stick it. Can't pull the window up.
But if
anyway,
the air conditioner's in it and you
Right.
shove
You
the air
shove the air
conditioner
conditioner
through the
through.
hole,
Yeah.
there's still a hole.
Oh, yeah. There's other ACs like a U-shaped one that wind goes all the way down into it.
we'll keep investigating.
Okay.
That's what we'll
They're
do.
really ineffective.
The kitchen hood was cleaned recently, which we are going to do regularly from now
That's a
on.
good idea.
That's a great idea.
So, yeah, I know, it's okay.
That's great.
We're getting on a good path.
That's good.
Locksmith came and installed a panic bar, in Salties and rekeyed to match our current keys, which was important because there was only one key to that.
Mhm.
Adam and I took a walk around the grounds, and that's a paper that you have there with the highlights, kind of separated some things of, what do we feel like we should do now? What should the town do? What should the school do? And that's just it's a weird line that I am still learning, I guess. So anyway,
Is that-
just,
Unfortunately, I think that line perpetually moves with every changing
You know what, I think
select
it
board
does.
and
I
every
think you're
changing
right.
principal. I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
that's anything you're gonna
Yeah.
nail down,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
but just today, I got Shane a weed whacker, and he took care of the Colby and Gale propane pumps. So we're just gonna keep doing more of those things to help our grounds. Did you have a question, Christian?
Well, I was just kind of curious about that. Like when you were walking around, was Adam just sort of like deciding what
No.
was the town and what was the school?
No, I mean, I was asking because I am confused with, it's just different. I feel like that I've learned here in South Bristol with the town owning the building, but the school being responsible for fixing the things. Does that,
And this is like the 4th walk around we've done
Yeah.
in the last couple of years, you know.
No, I'm just curious about how we make that determination of what is whose responsibility, and is that codified somewhere, or?
that's what I want your help with. That's why you have the list. So guide me. I will work with anyone from the town and the school board, but I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page, and I feel like I'm that middle person.
Is the town owning the building, is that like a one-off for South Bristol, or is that something that happens in other main towns.
Todd?
It's not really,
It's not real common.
Yeah.
it's not actually legal.
That was that too, I guess.
It's fine for the town, but you see, the school committee is a committee of the town.
Right.
But, so there is no ownership, the way people, it isn't like I own my cell phone or whatever, or I own my glasses.
Yeah.
It's responsibility and control. And the whole town's responsible for the building, and the whole town has an interest in making sure the building exists, and no one else comes and seizes it from Booth Bay or something, you know? But ultimately, statute says that the school committee is responsible for looking after it. Anything you do to it, you have to expend those funds from the school budget so they can track how much money is going into main school buildings.
Well, and
So
that's
if you-
how I read the MRSA, but I thought, well, gosh, it'd be great if it was owned by the town and we actually had like a lease agreement, because, you know, when you lease something from somebody, the leasee really has to take care of the building and then you pay the town.
Well, but
There's none of
the
that.
taxpayers are paying for it no matter what. It's just whether it's coming out of the town's budget or the
Sure.
school's budget.
But when you do
Well, the
this,
towns
when you say the town's gonna do these things,
Right,
you should
except,
hide those from your expenses for the school by saying it's coming out of, like, I don't know, Public Works or something. You're violating state statute and Maine school finance law.
my problem with
They're
helping
asking you to keep track of how much you're
is
spending.
that word, helping. Either you have ownership of a responsibility or you do not have ownership of a responsibility. And so then it becomes, well, we're doing it out of the kindness of our heart, and I don't mean that they are. I'm just saying, but if it spins that way, then how do you hold anybody accountable? It just becomes
I think
weird. It
we-
just becomes weird, and it's just too easy to have misunderstandings about where does the road meet the road kind of stuff.
I think one of the clean ways you could just do this is you could just nominate, like, the members of your select board that want to be focused on the building as your facilities committee. Nobody says that the members of a facilities committee have to be school board members, so they just become the stewards of the building, if you will. You just want to spend the money out of the right accounts is the thing. It isn't about decision-making or who, you know, the way you guys actually operate is fine. It's just when you go to pay the bills, it'd be better if you did it so that the auditors were satisfied.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay.
There's,
Sarah?
I think that there's some, sorry, go ahead, John.
can I, there's another big issue with not doing it through the school budget. And that is if, when we eventually apply for a revolving renovation fund from the DOE.
Yeah.
They look at those expenses to know whether or not you've tried to maintain your building. And if there's not much in there or nothing in there, they say, no, you haven't spent any money all these years, you're gonna spend it now. And that would be unfortunate.
All that
Have we
stuff is
ever
under Chapter
received
65.
Money like that before?
So the town shouldn't pick up any of this.
And it can be a fine line, the revolving renovation fund that keeps you from getting money and not getting money.
Yeah.
Something as small as that.
We've talked about this before. I feel like we are in a fairly good spot for the select board, and that, it's nice that they're going to Lori with a lot of stuff. And, I think that we can always keep talking to them. Lori and Kristen are going to the select board meeting on Thursday. Yeah, I think we have to be a little bit careful. And I mean, some of these things like have been, you know, like anything related to the baseball field has always been a town Little League funding thing.
Yeah.
So some are cut and dry and some aren't. And I think that's where we just have to keep talking with the ones that aren't.
And the playground, yeah, the baseball field is like a rec thing, and the playground is definitely a community playground, so that's why I think lines get, anyway.
Just be clear with my comments. My comments are only meant because I have this job and this responsibility to advise you on those things about school finance. I don't think you're in any danger of anybody getting in trouble or anything. And if that's the way your town works, God bless it, you know, I don't think it's any big deal. I just want to be able to be, people when asked what's going on, to quote the statute and, you know, DOE policy.
But John's comment is worthwhile to think about, and, you know, I don't know about that fund or how much we could potentially get from it, or when in the timeline of the school we would try to access it, but it's worth keeping in mind.
Yeah, definitely. Or if we wanted a whole new school, which they do completely
Yeah.
Two
fund.
different things, one's the
They
building.
will say no.
And
You know,
every
because
dollar
there's-
spent is like grant or is that loans?
Those are grants.
70% covered by the state, and 30%.
Pardon?
I think it's 70% by the state, and 30% by, there's a.
Yeah, there's a split there for a lot of them, but a new school, for example, they would fully fund, but they only do like a few a year, and it takes years to get on the list, and then you get on the list, and if they're looking at, what your expenses have been to maintain the building, and there isn't much there, then you won't get on the list. So,
The thing with the revolving renovation fund is they identify what you can apply for, and it can change from year to year.
Mhm.
So with the school building project, like you say, it's the whole thing. But so it depends what comes up and how
One year
how
they
big
do
your
heat
need
pumps,
is.
the next year they do
Yeah.
roofs, the next year they do windows, yeah.
HVAC, roofs, those are big things. ADA compliance is another big one.
When was this school built? Does anybody know?
Definite.
60s,
Sixty.
early
I was
60s, I
gonna
think.
say 50s, but I
I
can't.
think it's
quite-
around 60,
yeah.
61. Yeah, so late 50s,
great.
early 60s.
Shane got a quote from Tom Fence to fence in a playground behind Salty's for pre-KK and for after-care. What? Do you have a question?
No, I just love seeing the pre-K. No.
Well, they'll be on the big playground
Yeah, yeah.
also, but they're
great.
gonna do more outside exploration and learning and you're showing that to me? No, Sandy. Okay, Sandy, he wants to.
Can we get another one or two?
Yes, I will get another, yes.
talk.
And Shane and Mark attended the EPMA conference, Educational Plant Maintenance Association, and came back with, some good information, and his binders that he's been working on are coming together nicely, and I'm feeling good about what is getting done. Jeff Blank completed the canopy over the rear side of the gym and a trap door in the ceiling by the steps leading to the field, which helps John run wires and things. I'm sure it's more than that, but it is helpful. Eastern Fire did a hydrostatic test on our sprinkler system. We're all good. It's the first time the test has been done, and it should be done as far as we can find in any records. And it should be done every 5 years. So we have it on a schedule, and it will be done in 2030. If you keep us around. Royal River Heat Pumps came and gave us an estimate. And, I skipped right over the ticks. And Royal River and
Dave's Royal River and
Heat Pumps of Maine are the three estimates we got for the heat pumps. And rooms have been painted and almost every room has been polished, waxed. And polished and waxed. And Damaro fixed the bathroom fan, which has been a problem for a couple of years. And he also removed a questionable electric connection in Miss Packard's room that I just felt like I don't like that. I don't know why it was there. Damaro has been back to work on the water project. And Shane has asked for an upgrade, a quote to upgrade lights in Salty's. And then heat pumps.
Ticks.
Ticks, thank you. We reached out to All Points Pest, Nervous Ticks, and Modern Pest, and Nervous Ticks is unavailable, booked through 2025. Haven't received Modern Pest yet, and All Points, and that was June 24th, by the way. All Points said $600 for the first first treatment, and then $255 monthly. I did, to come back and spray, but it's all organic products. There are not chemicals. We don't have to worry about PFAS, and I have all the paperwork to go along with that should we decide to go about spraying for ticks.
Has that been a problem?
I don't think
You live in?
it has been, I don't think it has been
Do you
a
go
lot.
outside ever?
I mean, I think I probably knew about 3 last year.
Uh-huh.
But I've also met 3 people that either got Lyme or anaplasmosis. And I don't want that.
I've met 2 in just the
Personally.
last week
Did
that
you
are
really?
recovering
That's awful.
from it at town
Yeah.
office. Just met-
So anyway, not something we have to do, but something we could think about doing. Except we have to think probably pretty soon because he would want to do the first spray
Before the
before
kids
school
come
starts.
So,
Yeah,
my thought would be the area around Salties
Mhm.
is most
yeah. Oh,
likely to be
absolutely.
an issue
Yeah.
with the pre-Kers out there.
Yeah.
I mean, our playground's
Yeah. Wood chip.
wood chipped, so I think that keeps them at bay a little
Yeah.
bit. But if this is gonna be a grassy little playground,
Mhm.
I would be worried about that. Yeah.
One of the things that I don't even think I have it on this list, but one of the things that Adam and I noticed walking around the building is the back of the building hasn't been pressure washed or stained, and there's some areas that are starting to rot. So we have someone coming in. Frothingham Painting is coming in to do the baseball field side of the building, and that's in the next couple of weeks. I just did a requisition for that, so Katie did.
That's good. That was done.
Yeah.
But Russ years ago.
Needs to be done.
Yeah.
And I think that might be it, believe it or not, but I'm not done.
You're not done
I'll
yet?
keep talking. 62. So, actually, maybe I am done.
When I
Facilities?
got burns.
I do, yeah, okay. Just kidding, here we are. So I put together, Sarah's help, a little bit,
Not much.
a proposed budget for the Burns Grant request. There are a few changes and some additions. So last year, our after-school care program was revamped completely and really was hugely successful. Unfortunately, there were days when we had to say, I'm sorry, we can't take more kids because we had to cap it at 10 based on the age of the students that we have and how long I have 2 staff members here. So we would like to continue with that. And we are requesting an additional $12,000 to put in the playground area with the fence behind Salties for pre-KK and after-school care. After-school care was moved out of Salties for some reason, I'm not sure why, 4 years ago. And a bathroom was put into Salties for that program. So I really feel like it's important to have that program out there.
By the
Have them
burns.
have their-
Yeah.
By the Burns Fund, yes,
Yeah.
that's very important. So that is that one. And then also last year, one of our staff members suggested a pre-K to 4 after-school art program 1 day a week, and it was enormously successful. And the 5th through 8th graders have asked for one also, and she said yes, she would love to do it. So increasing a little bit in the after-school area so that she could also get paid for her time and also have supplies. LCTV is now in our Burns request, $2,500 for that. And 8th graders going to Maine Maritime Discovery Boat Building to build the boats. We also increased stipends. Some haven't been increased since before the pandemic, and others were increased in 2022. Some of the local schools give a percentage increase each year based on experience, and I feel like that might be a good way to do it. But this is just kind of getting teachers and staff members back to where I think they should be. And we added a week of unicycle before Circus Arts because they really enjoyed the unicycle this year, but it takes a lot longer to really grasp that skill. So to do a week longer of unicycling before Circus Arts happens, the directors feel like they'll be successful, the coaches. Last year, we hired assistant coaches for the SBS, BCS baseball and softball teams, so I put that stipend in there also for next year. And our music program will have chorus or band here and the other at Bristol. And based on numbers, we may need to use a bus to travel. Bristol always needs a bus, so I think Jen and I can just figure out where do I have more numbers or less numbers so I can use the van if possible. But we may need to travel to chorus and band.
Is that gonna be optional?
For sixth grade, it's optional to choose one or the other or be in music class. So just like we did last year. So, and our new teacher would like to add fourth and fifth grade band, and our third and fourth grade teacher is in for that. And so I found a spot in the schedule for that. So fourth and fifth, it would be like, this is your music class, you're gonna have band, you're gonna try it out. And then sixth grade is optional. They can do chorus or band or music class, but they will have music.
And music class is band.
It could be. That's not a bad idea. I like that, Christian. There's also a regular music class for fifth grade. So that was last year's students that were in sixth grade had the choice of music class or chorus or band. And they all chose either chorus or band, and I think it worked well for them. But we'll see. I know this fifth grade class was pretty bummed about not having the option of band and chorus last year, so I think they'll be into it. I hope so. Anyway. And then based on student input, there is a little more money in there for skiing and camping trips, because Outing Club, that was just, they loved the skiing, and it got so many students who don't do that. Maybe. So I think that that's really important to continue. And Kiev Leadership School has increased their rates this year. And so that doubles to 3,500. So that's in there also.
Is that the seventh grade?
That is seventh grade. Yep. Seventh grade overnight for 3 nights. 3 nights maybe. And then there's a detailed proposed budget on the next page, and then just the application, whether you want it or not. I don't know.
Can I get one of those? Oh my God.
This?
Stealing this one.
Yeah. Where on the budget does the LCTV fall?
That falls in with boat building, so that's not very
Co-curricular?
clear. So
Number 4.
Mine
Yeah.
looks different than yours.
what?
Okay, no, it's co-curricular. Okay,
Yeah.
so my
Co-curricular.
only suggestion would be that, put LCTV
Oh,
in
okay.
there so they can see it.
Yes.
Because it is new, and I think they're excited about it. It's a
Absolutely.
great program, but if you can just add that to the.
I can-
think that would be great.
Literally throw a line in right there because I want to call it out
Okay,
like I
yeah.
did the leadership
Perfect,
school.
yeah.
And
I think
Yeah.
that's great.
thank you. It is on my working copy of
Okay,
Burns,
yeah.
but
When you
Yeah,
mentioned
thank
it,
you.
I just was
Yeah.
not sure where it fit in, so.
And actually convinced another school to do it.
Yeah, well, Monarch Middle's doing it, right?
Jefferson do it.
Oh, nice.
we're meeting, my team is meeting with Larry, and there are CTL, teachers from
Oh, really?
CTL and teachers from Edgecombe Eddy coming to just watch our brainstorming
Okay.
session because they're really excited about it.
Aria and I ran into Larry at the hardware store, and
really?
he talked for half an hour.
Oh,
He was
really?
So
No,
excited
I
about
don't
doing it
believe
again.
So excited. I mean, I've had teachers who are finally taking a vacation, or, kids, they have kids. I've had such a hard time getting a meeting together. Plus I've needed to do interviews, but Larry's very excited for this meeting. I'm thrilled.
And so you guys will see this is about 15,000 greater than last year. So we kind of, I think one of the premise that like, it doesn't hurt to ask, and all of these are like legitimate things that we want to do. It's not fluff or anything like that, but we'll see what happens. It's great, and I like the letter and everything. It's a good format. So,
Thank you.
any questions about that? So you'll submit that tomorrow?
I will.
Perfect.
Do we need to make a motion?
I think I dropped
Yeah,
it
that
off
should
last
actually-
year. I kind of like doing that. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
I like doing it.
Yeah, we should.
When you do that, do you include like, oh, I don't know, like a collage of images from the past year,
No.
stuff that they've supported?
But I certainly should.
The Burns Fund is very aware of those images, I think. I mean, they follow us on social and stuff. But yeah, it can't hurt. Pictures
Yeah.
of the kids are always good, right?
Yeah.
Just like that's what we put in the budget, right? So that's smart.
Yeah.
Make them smile.
Pictures. Yeah. Great. Yeah, let's have a, I'd like to make a motion to approve, the Burns Fund request for 25, 26.
Are you typing? You're typing.
I got
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Thank
Very
you,
fresh.
Lori. That's great.
Thank you.
And it was Sarah and Christian, right?
I'll also go ahead and make a motion for the nomination of Lynn Savage for the position of middle school teacher and the nomination of Rhonda Miller for the position of art teacher.
Second.
All
Yeah.
right.
Who wants
it?
Me, he got the last.
Is there any discussion on that?
Had to get her to do it.
And just so you know, when you meet with her, she generally goes by Lynn.
I see that on the calendar, it says
Yeah,
Lynn
I
unless
mean,
it
that's,
says
that is,
Lindsay.
well, yeah, this is a more
Yeah,
formal
yeah,
thing, but it's just more a heads up.
I noticed that on the calendar.
All right, all those in favor? So moved. Welcome Lynn and Rhonda.
Is Lynn gonna be full-time?
She is. Mhm.
Who's the
She is the 8th grade advisor, and she's gonna go to boat shop, and
Oh, she can do the boat shop, right? Oh, that's
pretty
fantastic.
excited. Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
I am very excited. I think she's a great fit.
For sure.
Chris,
So-
absolutely.
We're fortunate that this works.
so is it 8th grade social studies and 3rd grade math? We're not sure yet. She's the 8th grade, so
She's
because
the
she's
8th
going to
grade social
DC, so
studies.
she'll lead that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
And Rhonda Miller is here 2 days a week.
Yep, she is. She's here on Tuesday and Wednesday, which is gonna change a little bit because we've had Monday, Tuesday art for the longest time. But it worked best with her schedule, and I can make that work for sure. Yeah, and she also said that Mondays are no good because there are too many holidays. I said, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I also
Alright.
love the town office. It's not open on Monday.
All right, any old business? Any new business? Policy, Sandy?
I made my recommendation to approve the Drummond with some recommended policies. And Christian chose to table it, so I'm looking to you.
I think Christian just one more time.
Yeah. I make a motion to accept the policies as Drummond Woodson recommended.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Great. Long range planning. Christian?
Okay,
Who's
let's
Christian?
give
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Sandy,
Sandy,
Thank you.
give me 1 minute to get stuff set up here.
good. I want to catch up. About how much do we double up? I mean, I think you get the wording of the motion, and I get,
I just I put them up side by side and I look at them. and
All right.
One of us misses
All right.
something, the other will catch.
okay.
I know
You know, some people might want a different document.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You must be
absolutely
lost.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you know what salties is?
That I
Sounds
don't.
like- sounds like the town bar.
Building at the end of the parking lot. Yeah.
Sound like a water.
Salty's also our mascot, so that's it. We used to call it the white building because our principal.
I'm done.
Only in
Well,
South
we
Bristol.
just spent all that money.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with the AOS side of things than I am.
Well, that's impressive right there, so.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I was like finalizing this, like, you know, in the moments before our meeting, so this is, rough. And this is only like new to maybe 3 people in the room, so, it's a good opportunity. I'm planning to give this talk again, next week at the Bristol town meeting, which is why Emil's here, so he can maybe choose to tell me not to come. So this is about what the restructuring committee has been doing for the last year and a half and what we've come up with as a plan for moving forward, or what we think we should do for moving forward. And just to remind everybody, we started meeting, or the reorganization effort in Lincoln County with AOS 93 began in January of 2023. We put forth a lot of different options. Jerome Woodsum came and talked to us and advised us to join the ESC that was proposed. 6 months, a year later, our school and Bristol voted to join the ESC. Jefferson and Noblesboro did not. Great Salt Bay pulled out of the AOS. And then when they did that, Bristol and South Bristol formed the reorganization committee because we knew that the new AOS was going to change the way things operated because of the way things were going to be weighted. So there was the new four-town AOS created a new cost-sharing arrangement last December, which has just gone into effect July 1st of this year, right? So we're operating under that new budget as of this year. And that cost-sharing agreement increased our expenses in South Bristol by about 130 grand, right? We went from an $80,000 expense to support the AOS to a $210,000 expense. Prior to GSB leaving, South Bristol, were part of a philosophically aligned majority in the AOS when it came to education. And we steered a course between those towns that prioritized education over cost savings. And we don't have that ability anymore because Bristol and South Bristol are now in the minority. And we don't have that voting power, even though the money we're paying into the AOS is growing every year. And, this isn't, in a way, I mean, it's rightly so. Once GSB pulled out, finances were going to be a lot tighter, and Jefferson and Noblesboro had the majority. Well, and Bristol too, for that matter. They all voted in favor of a different cost-sharing arrangement, which had South Bristol paying more of, maybe you could say, their fair share of the AOS expenses, right? But that's not in our best interest. So we want to try to change that. I think because of that sort of different philosophy about the prioritization of education over cost, the reorganization committee is looking for a model that centers our community down here and allows our administrators to focus more on our schools and allows our resources and funds really to serve our students and our schools and not others. So over the last year, we looked at a couple of different options. We looked at standalone school districts. Could South Bristol become its own school with its own central office and just stand alone by ourselves? And that's not realistic. It's too expensive. We'll never make it happen. We looked at private schools. Could we, find some wonderful philanthropist who wanted to invest a couple of $1 million a year into the South Bristol school? If you know one, introduce us, but we don't know one, and so it's not a realistic option. And we looked at the two-town RSU, and that's where really we spent most of our time and most of our focus is on this idea of a two-town RSU with us and Bristol. And what it came down to, the reason we dismissed it was because it requires the transfer of the school building to the control of the RSU, and because it would be governed by a single board that was elected from the two towns, which would mean that South Bristol would lose a lot of control over its school, and that wasn't going to fly here. So we came up with this idea of the two-town ESC. the Education Service Center, which allows us to retain, I mean, basically nothing changes from terms of the school. The school body stays the same, the school board stays the same, the services that we get from the ESC will mirror that which we got from the AOS, but we have a new board that is the ESC board that we can create how we like. We can make it 1 or 2 members of our board plus 1 or 2 members of their board. We can add a dog, we can add a cat, we can do whatever we want. It's our board to choose how we want to make it. And it has all the members of the board have equal voting power, which is really important. Regardless of our student body, regardless of our tax base, regardless of the money we put into the ESC, the members of the board have equal voting power. So this will allow us to create our own or a new cost sharing arrangement that'll be much more fair, I think. We'll be working with our neighbors in Bristol, who I think we'll both have more of our own interests at heart. And in the future, it will allow for the evolution of this collaboration that was started over the last year to grow into something more, and also to grow into something that I think will evolve systemically to allow us more efficiencies and cost savings in the future. So we decided at the last meeting of the restructuring committee that we would recommend pursuing the formation of a 2-town ESC with all due haste to our boards. So here I am telling you that. All due haste is important because, sorry, I missed the slide. All due haste is important because we need to get the applications in this fall to be able to start as an ESC on July 1st of next year. That's important to hear and to understand. We have to move quickly.
Christian, what if we change our mind after that
Wait, there's
application goes
more.
in? Okay.
There's more. That comes at the end.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so can we afford it? Yes, we can. That's the short answer. When we modeled it against the fiscal year 27 AOS 93 budget, which is coming up, as the chair of the AOS board, I knew that that was going to be one of our first pieces of business to start building the budget for next year. And I wanted to see how a 4-town ESC would compare against a 4-town AOS. How would a 2-town ESC stack up, or 2 2-town ESCs stack up against the AOS? And we got as far as modeling this 2-town ESC against the AOS. So because the other towns have talked about wanting to move our contributions to the AOS up every year, we can imagine that we went from a 9% commitment in fiscal year 25 to an 18% commitment last year, or the year that we're in now. We can imagine that the next one will be 22% because that's halfway between 18 and 25, right? And that would be the following year. So,
But it could be 25. We don't know. It could go straight to 25.
Absolutely. They could ask us to commit 25% this year. Yes, they could. And
Actually, because of the way the voting works, they could demand you vote 100, you provide 100%, and they would win that vote.
Oh my gosh.
That's probably not realistic.
That's
Not realistic.
not realistic, but you're right.
They can put it wherever they want.
Okay.
just look at those numbers for a second in yellow. 209 is this year. Next year would be 273.
That's 22,
That's the 22.
23%.
Yeah.
What does the 273 cover?
Our costs in the AOS.
So
For-town AOS.
transportation, superintendent, business manager.
Mm-mm.
There's no transportation.
It's not paying for
That's in
transportation.
our school budget.
Okay,
So
it's a big dollar.
it's a big dollar, yeah. And then if the AOS's costs stayed the same as they were last year, our 25% commitment was gonna be like 310, I think. So we can assume that the AOS costs are going up and will go up again. So by the time we get to 25%, even if it is a year from now, we can imagine that that cost is well over $300,000 by then, right?
Can I?
The cost of the ESC is gonna be closer to 250. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm very cautious about putting a 250 number out there. Kristen and I have talked about it. There was a trial budget that was put together, but the joint restructuring committee has not really pulled that apart or looked at it. And I think also in the statement that it's going to be cheaper than the AOS, I hope that's true, but we really I don't feel like we've had enough time, and I understand the haste, but I think we will have enough time, even with the AOS, the potential pulling out of the AOS deadlines, to really look at this and come up with some better numbers and kind of compare things. But I just want to caution everyone who's listening that we don't know if that number's not solid yet.
That's right.
And it might end up being spot on. I'm not saying that it's not right, but I
That's
just think
right.
we really have to put some time into.
The restructuring committees has yet to get together and really hash out what that ESC staffing looks like.
Mhm.
It could be, you could mold it a bunch of different ways.
Yep.
Who stands up the ESC? This doesn't exist yet, correct?
No,
Correct.
it's a
John's Bay, it's just concept, right?
Absolutely.
And can you explain the
Who
100,000?
stands it up? Who gets it going?
Who makes it happen?
We do. And an ESC team, which I'm getting to.
Can you explain the 100,000?
State makes plenty, yes. The state will makes a contribution per pupil to an ESC, and it pays for 50% of the ESC executive director's salary.
Okay.
So again, that is not a set in stone number, but
So
it'll
that,
be
like-
somewhere in that neighborhood.
30,000 for kids, and if we have a part-time ESC director, isn't it just half of that part-time salary? It's not half of the whole salary of the business manager too, right?
It's half of the ESC executive director's salary.
Right, and so.
So
but
I
you're
don't know that
proposing half.
The
essentially
ESC
half
director would be a half-time person or a full-time person. Again, something else to be
Okay.
decided by the
Right.
restructuring committee. Okay, we've talked about, the bottom line is yes, we can likely afford it. It will more than likely be a cost-saving measure. It will offer all the same services that the the AOS offers, superintendent, finance, special ed, facilities, transportation, nutrition, adult ed through CLC, and secondary administration.
Can I make one comment on that, Christian? You see those words, administration, facilities administration, that's the same stuff the central office does now. It's not getting involved in that, the management of the building or the choices you make. It's just like when you say, can you pay this bill? It gets paid. Can you sign this contract? It gets signed. Can you just go out to do an RFP on this? It gets done. It's not the control that sits with nothing changes there.
Thank you, Peter. So, you were asking about, part-time, full-time. Who do we need to include in terms of the staff for an ESC? We need a executive director by statute. Needs to have an executive director. The Department of Education does not want the executive director to be the superintendent because that's a conflict of interest. So it's a separate position. We had talked in a kicking the tires sort of way about a superintendent / curriculum director for this ESC. We had talked about only needing a part-time special education director, a couple of admins, and then fulfilling a lot of other services through contracted hires. And our schools don't change. We have all the same staff that we did. But in the future, could we find efficiencies? Yes. Through these ideas and others. Where does it live? It lives at Bristol. because there's room there. They have some rooms that are not big enough to be classrooms, and
They have space to put this in?
yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Hmm.
And then you have a phone system and a computer system that's already in place, so we don't have to, pay a Spectrum bill on top of that. Of course, there'd be some kind of rental agreement through the ESC for those offices to be located in Bristol, and of course, Bristol would pick up a piece of that, because that would be a shared cost, which would probably be a savings in the school budget for Bristol. So we have to get the application in nowish, like next couple of weeks. That's application part 1. That's basically putting the Department of Education on alert that we are thinking strongly about doing this. And then application part 2 and the interlocal agreement that goes with it has to be finished before October 31st. So that interlocal agreement would include how we plan to, not how we plan, it would include the cost share arrangement that we've decided upon. It would include how the board is set up, right? We have to make these decisions in the next 8 to 10 weeks. Then there needs to be a withdrawal plan developed, a transition plan developed, right? How are we going to leave the AOS? When Bristol and South Bristol pulls out of the AOS, do we take half of the office furniture that's up at the central office, or do we leave that behind? How do we divide up those resources that are, partly ours? So the withdrawal plan, the transition plan, obviously a budget has to be developed, and that budget has to be worked into our town budgets. And then the ESC starts operating at the end of the fiscal year. I think it's really important to acknowledge that doing this and coming up with this plan is gonna throw a lot of wrenches into a lot of gears across the county. And we need to acknowledge that, and we have to not dilly-dally, right? Because our budget will mess with the AOS budget, which will mess with Jefferson's budget and Noblesboro's budget and Bristol's budget. So we have to make a decision and move on it.
Christian, what's that last bullet look like?
Sorry?
What does that last bullet look like? Because I can see the AOS saying, our employees are our employees. I'm reading that as
Yeah,
you have
It's a
two
good-
sets of employees.
that's a good question.
The AOS is not gonna say, okay, I'll use you as an example, Peter, okay? If Peter's doing something down in the ESC, I can see them saying, no, he's an AOS employee till the end
Yeah,
of.
I see that.
So
Yeah.
it should look exactly like it did when RSU 48 operated in parallel with AOS 93 for the fourth quarter of this year. That was Lindsay, began to, she had all the emails changed so that people started having access to 2 email systems. So that you could get an email at either ljohnston@aos93 or at rsu48.org. You had people starting to train on the new people. Like if you had some of these admin assistants in the buildings, we're going to start supporting some more of the approval path of Aptifund. They get more involved in it, and you just start working in a handoff and a transition. I don't see any reason why it would need to compete with the AOS jobs, even if we're the same people. It's more like setting up emails and doing that stuff so that you're creating a nice flow.
You know why I'm asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there'd be opposition to anything that is considered running Roy.
And they did build Lindsay into the current budget as the transition was going
Right.
on in anticipation.
Right.
That is not something
Right.
that's been done now.
So
So I'm just,
There's
Yeah.
ways to manage this that would avoid that conflict.
and I was gonna suggest something similar to that.
Can I ask you something about, does the withdrawal plan and the transition plan, are those part of the part 2 of the application, or are those just what we need for ourselves to get out of it? So that doesn't need to be then submitted to the DOE?
Right.
Just checking.
But they're gonna
Withdrawal
want
plan
to,
has to be approved by the commissioner.
Okay, so does it have to be approved by January 31st?
By October 31st?
I'm sorry, October 31st,
The withdrawal plan and the
transition.
and the transition plan? I don't think so. Do they?
The answer to that question, about when is the withdrawal plan due
Mhm.
and when does it get approved, I was told it should be done in parallel with the Part 2 application. It's not due the same day, but it should be done like at the same time
Yeah, no,
and then submitted. And it does need to be approved by the commissioner, but the commissioner is probably gonna, from what I saw with like what Lindsay just said, okay, so we're considering your application. Do you have a withdrawal plan?
Yeah.
You know, and then the transition plan is more internal kind of, like you have to actually make it work and that's on you.
Okay.
You don't want to put that off.
no, I'm
because
not
this-
suggesting that, I just wasn't
No,
sure
I'm
if there was a
saying
harder fast
It
deadline.
isn't, the transition plan is not subject to Department of Education review, but it's subject to getting it done so that you don't fall in any cracks along the way. And
Well, and I think we're gonna have to be super clear with the other members of the AOS if we do this about how that transition works. And there is precedent, right? There is precedent about how it worked when GSB left. And they did hire somebody to help with that transition, as you know, and so we could consider doing the same thing.
just a little example of like a transition plan, a detail, a withdrawal plan, and a transition plan, how you do stuff that Lindsay and I were very careful. We worked very closely together. We met every Thursday from February, March on to say, what do we think? What are we missing? What do we have? What do we have to do? You know? And then like the 2nd or 3rd of July, somebody from GSP showed up at central office and said, I came for the personnel records. I was like, can't take those. AOS 93 has to keep those. We're legally bound to keep those. And so we had to call in a very friendly way, Drummond Woodsum, and say, who's supposed to keep these? And they were like, wait, we don't know. We'll look into it. You know, so that's the stuff that you want to kind of, you don't just want somebody showing up and surprised requests like that. Like we have a truck and we want to move the file cabinet, which is what happened. And luckily we all just sort of said, let's call Greg and see what he says. And everybody's good about it. But in a different kind of scenario, you want to think that stuff out way in advance.
Because, and the other thing to consider, we talked about this too, is Drummond Woodsum can't represent both parties.
Oh, yeah, AOS and
So if there's any kind of this thing going on,
GSB have,
they did, but it was,
If there's any conflict.
if there's any conflict.
So we had
Oh,
both
okay.
agreed.
No
Like,
conflict.
when we called them about the
Right.
files, both Lindsay and Todd has say or sign a thing that said, we want you to sort this out
Yes.
for us. We're not
We're
trying to,
both-
there's no adversarial situation.
I'm glad you said that, that's important.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we want to identify, we need to identify that team. It doesn't have to have the entire, in fact, it's probably better not to have the entire restructuring committee on the team that's doing the work. We don't need approvals from 15 people to get a lot of this done. We need 1 or 2 representatives from each town. We need the ESC executive director identified and the ESC superintendent identified, because they're the people that are going to be able to push this thing through and plan for it to be able to start on July 1st. So we got to get them picked soon.
Laura started to ask a question, and I shouldn't remember what it was a little while ago. And I'm just curious for the answer to that question.
Are you about, what if we start this process and all of a sudden say, no way, we want to stay with the
Right.
AOS?
So, well, this is what's next, right? We're doing a presentation next week to the Bristol folks. We're doing.
Is this the presentation the AOS board's gonna get tomorrow night?
No.
So when are they gonna get this?
I wasn't under the impression that the AOS board required this.
This is these towns.
But you just said a few minutes ago, you have to give the other towns in the AOS the proper notification.
Yeah, we'll give them notification. I don't think that they want a 20-minute presentation about it, is my guess. Would you agree?
Bristol
you guys
should
can
have it.
probably talk about that afterwards. too.
Sorry?
Yeah.
You might be able to talk about that after the meeting as well.
Sure.
And Bristol's meeting on Monday, correct?
They
Monday.
switched their
They
meeting.
switched their meeting, so it's Monday at, when do you, 5:30 or 6?
Same
5:30,
time as
okay,
normal.
so 5:30 on Monday is theirs.
Can I, how, GSB, they pulled out of the AOS.
Mhm.
Have they insourced all those central office
Yes.
functions?
Yeah.
So do we know how many people are performing those same central office functions?
Well, we actually don't, because what they did is what's in here. is that they started distributing things among existing people. So GSB had 3 admin assistants in the office. I can't remember all their
Yeah,
names,
right.
Michelle Brown,
Yeah.
Sam Addix, and somebody else. And what Lindsay added like a finance clerk, like what Emily and Bobby do. Lindsay is a 3-day-a-week superintendent and a 2-day-a-week business manager. It's an RSU. It's an RSU. It's not an ESC. They have a facilities director. They have they have their own buses, so they have a transportation director. So they have a whole different real organization than what you'd be looking at down here. But what they did was that one of the admin assistants handles sort of the requisitions and POs, and another one handles getting everybody's app time stuff organized so that the timesheets get in. So what she did was exactly what we're saying here can be done, keeping the business office as lean as possible by adding depth to the admin assistants in the building, so they handle more of the.
Yeah, but you could calculate at a 0.2 or 0.3 or 0.4 for some of those functions, so it still gives me an idea.
That's what they'll do over this year, is figure out how much time it's really taking, because they're just all on the same
The
payroll.
curiosity is, if we insourced, what would that look like versus if we outsourced to an ESC? Because when you start looking at these models and you start trying to sell it, people are gonna ask for a comparison analysis of the different courses of action.
Mhm.
And if you say, we've decided that this one course of action is your answer, you're gonna have
Pushback.
people are gonna, well, what do you mean you've decided that this is the best? What are the other courses of actions? Bring us along to say, well, we looked at an RSU, we looked at what are the other formats, and these are the pros and cons, and these are, even if it's broad, rough orders of magnitude in terms of the number of people who want to compare that. I mean, I could see a future, for example, where we did have our own buses with Bristol if we join forces.
Well, I think we're lucky that we
Because
learned,
that's one of the huge cost drivers.
we learned a lot from how the first ESC was rolled out. So I think that you're right on a lot of those points, and we could see the pluses and minuses
I
of how
think
they.
there's a lot of people like me who would say, okay, and if you want to bring them along, obviously if you stovepipe everything and you insource everything into one community school, a single municipality school, showing what that big number would look like would help.
And we
people
could, because we
accept
saw it
the
with Emily.
smaller numbers when we get to partner with others.
Yeah.
We have an example of dual hatting business manager with superintendent. Well, what was the example of dual hatting principal with superintendent? I mean, I think those are all other ways to skin the cat and understanding what that looks like. Because this town is super sensitive when it comes to their bill rate and what it costs to get things done. And so having those kind of brass tacks, these guys in town, they don't mess around. They want to know, what is that number?
And they also they also don't mess around with local control. So I think we have that to
Yeah.
our advantage.
So we
But I
learned a
think
lot.
you're absolutely right. And you're,
But having the comparison analysis, say, we looked at this,
no, I agree.
this staffing model would cost this much, this staffing model would cost this much to operate, and having at least 3 to kind of get everybody to.
And the first time when they said,
Get the
well,
brains
if we
wrapped
close South Bristol, we're gonna save $2 million.
Don't even say that again.
But no, but they didn't back it up with any numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
So it didn't matter. I mean, so I think that you're right. You need not only the options, but not it's just too expensive. Here's even,
And if
where
you're a
it's gonna
simple
go.
guy like me, man, I love a good org chart on that PowerPoint, Boom, 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 these are the functions, boom, 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 this is who reports to who, and then the next one is, and in the big cost centers, that's what
So
that
we
cost center
can't
costs.
build an org chart until we have the sort of approval from us to go ahead with this, right? And we have to.
Well, you don't put names in it, but you could show a model.
Well, okay, so I can't do this willy-nilly, right? The restructuring committee has to do this together with a team or as a team. So I can't just give you 3 different variables or 3 different ways to skin the cat, right? And we're not gonna provide models that have already been thrown away through the last restructuring process. So the idea of combining everything into one school is a non-starter, right? We're not even going there.
But even put
But
it
we have
idea-
to show that it's
put it
not.
in the
I hear what you're
I
saying.
think-
But it's not about, that's not about finances. That idea is a non-starter.
Right, but I think what they're trying to say is you have to let people come to that conclusion.
We did
I
for
know
3
we did.
years.
I know we did. I know we've done that. I've seen the numbers. I sat here when we talked to Emily. I would run for the hills and be a waitress if I had to do her job. There's no way. I mean, if we were a municipality, it's not sustainable. And the increase in finances each year does not make sense for us either. But we just have to show it. Just show, it's maybe 2 things that definitely won't work and the ESC.
Well, I think, okay,
You
I
can
mean,
say
we
it that
could,
way.
we could do that if we wanted to, and we can do that if we want to show people tons of spreadsheets. I think I feel like we've already thrown out these options as a town over the last 3 years of
I know.
meetings after meetings after
Not
meetings.
numbers.
Yeah, I mean, some of them weren't based on numbers, right? The idea of combining into one school was not about the cost. It was about that
There were
destroys the
so many
town,
other things. that
right?
were-
The idea of the RSU and losing local control over our schools is a non-starter.
I'm
Not
not sure that the
necessarily.
RSU model, I think we need finances for that. Because if we did have,
We are
Well,
still talking
okay.
about an RSU, aren't we?
No, the restructuring committee pretty much decided that was not gonna fly.
So
Right,
who,
right. We're
who's
not-
buying into the ESC?
The restructuring committee.
Well,
I'm
Who's
Bristol.
buying services
Oh, Bristol and
Each
Southbridge
school.
Yeah.
as,
as the
Individual
ESC.
districts.
as RSUs?
No.
As a municipality.
Yeah.
As a municipality,
As
that's
a
what I
town.
need.
School.
A municipal school unit.
I think that's what happened.
Your existing school committees would join an ESC. And it would be the exact, you're already elected on them, nothing changes. You become this body joins that ESC
But to,
and you govern it.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Christian's not wrong in that unless you decide on something, you're not gonna be able to make an org chart and actually figure out numbers directly, exactly as you need to. The other benefit to doing, and we can do a pros and cons, many of them weren't necessarily for financial reasons, as you guys pointed out.
Yep.
We can, that many of the townspeople would easily dismiss some of those options that we had,
Big bullet sub.
regardless of fund estimates. The other thing that's cool about this ESC is that it is probably the only option that we have that we could get done before the next July. So it could be that if things go well for a year or two, that we decide as the 2 towns and combined with an ESC, decide to go into an RSU with the 2 towns and just sort of absorb the services and potentially the employees of the ESC. But that's a couple of year long process. And which we could not do and get in place before July 1 of next year.
we couldn't even, I think it would be difficult to get people in the town and staff to be comfortable with an RSU because we need to learn to work together, which we're doing really, really well with 2 schools.
Yep.
But the fear is
There's a
someone's
couple
gonna
of
be
hurdles.
pulled to the other school and they're gonna have to work there. And anyway, it's gonna be slow. It's going to be slow.
At least
Oh,
say
I'm
why you
worried.
didn't consider the other models.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Bring
can definitely
people
do that.
along with your story.
Yeah.
You've spent a lot of work, and you guys have had, as your story committee, you've had a lot of time to discuss all this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just say, hey, we talked about it, and here's what we've decided, you're gonna have these guys do not have round tables, they will dig in.
Yes.
Why?
We could
They're gonna
say,
ask you why.
we talked about it, here's the summary of these,
Yeah.
of the results of that conversation.
Right, and just a couple of bullets. Super expensive to do it all ourselves.
This doesn't work
Doesn't work
this
because-
would have been great because of this won't work because of these things.
Right, and to your point, the ESC is a legally recognized entity by the DOE, and so it is very much doable. that's great. And I think one of the selling points of the ESC is that it is à la carte, so we can pick and choose how much we want to do ourselves when what's outside of our
Mhm.
comfort zone, and we need help doing.
And
So I
you've
think
done,
those, but you gotta
you've
sell
done
it.
most of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just smaller tweaks. It's not big changes. And I appreciate all the work that you've done. 'Cause
I will-
you've gotten us to this point.
the restructuring committee.
No, you've definitely taken the lion's
And I
share.
have one more question. Cart before the horse. I know you kind of alluded to, we need to have those key players in place in order to stand up the EAC, and I don't know, maybe it's, you guys would know, are there not, laws that say, hey, you gotta compete these positions?
I don't think this works unless you have open interviews for all of these positions and a very transparent process.
Yeah.
Personally, that's my, like,
I mean, you have to hire, right? In
Yes.
order to hire, don't you have to compete the position? I would think
Yes.
DOE would say, hey, guys,
I would
you gotta
say
compete your
yes.
positions.
even
I would
if we
assume
didn't,
yes.
I would want to.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would too.
I mean, just,
Well, if you want to do that, I mean, it would have to be like the process that it took to hire Todd took
Yeah.
like 3 months.
Yep.
And we don't have that time.
do we have the legal authority to appoint people?
Do you have,
I don't know.
do you have any interested candidates?
Oh,
Yes, I think so. But I don't
You're saying we do have the
think
legal
it's time to
authority
talk
appoint
about that right now.
I don't either, but
Yes,
The
you need.
DOE will give us a
Just need an
decision
initial
in
agreement.
the, hopefully in the winter,
Put an initial agreement. Done.
after the first of the year, and then that we can sort of pretend that's official and volunteer committee could stand to help and hire. I understand.
Good,
And then we could do interviews in the spring.
good. Or you could appoint people in the fall with a 1-year contract or something like that.
I don't know, I don't know.
The first
There's
year.
gotta be
to
some
get
sort of
us set
legal
up.
rule, is there, like,
Would you-
appoint an
would you-
interim and then,
Would you bring, an interim
Is
position, but would you bring, like, can you imagine hiring somebody who's completely new to come into this world?
right, I'm just asking, is
Not
there,
necessarily.
New to what, exactly?
These two schools.
New to schools, new to
These two schools.
business, new to,
Yes.
I mean, I think,
there are other people in the world that have skills.
That's true.
I think in any situation when you're creating a new entity, you need to hire the way you would hire for any business.
Well, I think we will have a hard time getting it done if we have a long, drawn-out hiring process.
because I'm asking, what's the
A
law?
lot of.
Yeah, I know, that's me too. I wanna know the
I
law too.
understand that too.
Law is that you
So-
can name your positions that you agree on in the interlocal agreement when you submit on October 31st.
I think we'll have a hard
You
time
say
getting.
that again?
Are you looking at number 3?
The whole thing.
The whole
yeah.
thing, yeah. It names, basically you just name it in your interlocal agreement when you submit it with part 2 of the application.
Name the position.
Name the key positions and the people in them, and you just, the 2 school committees, just name that, put the people in there and keep going with the withdrawal plan, transition plan and all that, and that's how you can do it. I completely understand the optics, politics, and needs to want to put it out to see, put it in the paper for a few months, run a whole process, involve MSMA in a superintendent search, but I don't think that, given what we know about how long that takes and everything, you can do both, get out of here, get out of the AOS by October 31st and do that process. You certainly, if you put it in the spring, I mean, by then you have to have the things you need to do between now and then, submit a part 1 application, part 2 application with a withdrawal plan and with a signed interlocal agreement with
All right, so
and
can I,
put together a budget and get it passed and get it into your towns in January. That work would have to be done while you wait to see who's gonna do it, who you would hire to do it.
I think we need to just, I think there is some more information that we need to get. I think that it's pressing, but I think we can, Bristol's meeting on Monday, we can have a week to look into this and see what we're required to do and, how it might play out. But I think it's
I'm
important.
positive for this. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I think-
here. I'm just saying, let's make sure we don't, one, that we bring the story, is we tell the story too well, and two, that we're 100% above board.
Yeah,
with
transparent.
Transparency.
Yeah.
100%, I agree.
So I think it would be even harder if we're not.
Okay.
It's not gonna fly.
It just
It's not
won't,
gonna veto
right?
it.
Not,
Yep.
not in either community, I don't believe. If
Yeah.
we're not transparent, I don't think South Bristol or Bristol.
Yep.
Is that true?
Would,
Just speak
Go
for
on.
Bristol.
I said I don't think.
And
I can say what I think.
we'll be at the meeting on Monday.
I know, but I just said I don't think.
I think it's a great idea. I
And-
really do.
Yeah, I mean, Bristol's gonna meet on Monday. They might bring up some other points. They might agree with us or disagree with us, and then we're gonna meet together also. So, and we're gonna go to the selectmen's meeting. We're gonna be on the select board's meeting agenda anyway, so we'll see if there's other concerns, because
Did I
you
hear
guys
that
are
you're
only
bringing
hearing
this?
this tonight, but it's been talked about among
I wasn't
Jefferson.
planning
and
to.
stuff. What?
It might have been a slip. You said earlier that Christian was coming to the Thursday meeting, so I
You
asked
said-
if he was bringing this.
I am, I'm going.
Yeah, no. Oh, you asked if you were bringing this. No,
I
yeah,
asked
that's
if
all,
you was
no,
bringing
that's
this.
all we were, I wasn't saying this.
I was planning on having the conversation and answering questions
Yes,
as people had them.
Agreed. Yep. No, I
I
wasn't
wasn't
expecting
planning
that.
to make a.
I didn't even know this was coming, so I was
wasn't
just
planning
asking
to
if
have
this was
our-
on your intention for Thursday night.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So what's the due date to, letter of intent is?
August 28th or
August
29th?
30th or so.
End of August.
Right around the corner, 2 weeks.
But that's intent. That's
Yeah,
That's
really
just
intent.
intent,
Yeah.
Letter of intent.
Yeah, we don't have to have all the
answers. I
answers,
intended to mow the lawn this morning.
Yep.
I get it.
All right, so I think, is there anything else you want to touch on? Okay, yeah, I think that we're agreed on that. Okay, so that was, thank you for all the work. That was a good,
Yeah,
that was really,
yes, thank you.
and it's,
Seems promising.
So
it's
do we need
exciting to see an attainable timeframe. Yeah, so what's the action step is that this board recommends proceeding to,
With the application
for
process.
the application process? Is that what you're thinking?
Does that
I
mean we
forget- I don't have the
we
sheet that
can
you-
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's the intent of the meeting on August 21st,
I thought
right?
that was this, the intent of South Bristol's meeting and Monday's meeting, and then the, do you want a recommendation from us or not? I think we
I'd
should-
love a
I think we should have that.
I think
yeah.
we should too.
So,
Yes, please.
make a motion for,
Support submitting a letter of intent.
Javier's got it,
Yeah.
Make a motion that we,
part one of the application.
at least for our school, that we recommend going forward with a letter of intent.
Yeah, it's Javier's motion, you said it better than me.
It's application.
I'll second.
It's not a word. That's what he said, though.
Any more discussion?
Does it need to be rewarded before?
You have it?
There's Peter chiming in on that.
Okay, okay.
There's
You're
no
good?
letter of intent. It's application part one.
Application part one.
Okay.
Good.
Application part one, yes.
Application part one.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? All right,
Okay.
great. Future board topics, we'll come up with lots of those. Public comment, any more public comments? No, we're good. We don't need an executive session, we covered everything. All right, without objection, the board chair declares the meeting adjourned at 7:17. Thank you.
That was a motion, right?
What? Yeah, Javier was the motion.